Welcome to episode 47 of Thrashcast. My name's Billy, and our trio here today includes my co-hosts, Jim and Ken. How are you guys doing today?
Awesome.
All right, sir.
All right, cool. So let's begin with a quick reminder. Where can you find Thrashcast? Our website, www.horrormetalsounds.com. And of course, on YouTube, Horror Metal Sounds at Kenji .2864. And as always, I encourage everyone to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, please give us a like on each of our weekly podcasts. It really helps the channel grow. And as we say week after week, we really appreciate that. In terms of the agenda today, we're going crossover thrash.
Yeah.
And a real classic, I think so.
Yep.
We've got D.R.I, also known as Dirty Rotten Imbeciles. Our focus is Thrash Zone from 1989. And like last week, we've instead of doing a top 10, we're running with the year 1989, and we're each going to pick an album from that year that we have a connection to and share what we like about the album. So I think that worked pretty well.
Yep.
And also, just please, by all means, give us a comment in the comment section of YouTube if you like that approach. If you don't like the approach, just some feedback. We're trying to mix things up a little bit. So we value that feedback and we can adjust on the fly as we go. In terms of next steps, so let's go to our normal segment, what's spinning and news. Jim, how about we start with you today?
Yeah. Okay. Well, for news, I kind of going to go with something that was just released. The Quebec FEQ concert. I guess it would be more along the lines of a festival. So I think 11 days long. But the interesting part about this is Slayer will be playing there in July, which is kind of out of left field, I guess. I mean, weird, but they're going there. They're going to be playing with Mastodon on the same night. But, Billy, you made a funny, kind of an interesting comment earlier. That was the next night Shania Twain's playing. So, there's all kinds of, on this bill, just kind of like, you buy I believe the pass is $165 Canadian. So it's not bad. But
For every night?
Yeah, for all nights, I think.
Wow.
And it's the first night you got Rod Stewart. Second night these are the headliners. You're gonna have Avril Lavigne, Def Leppard's gonna be there. And then Shania Twain plays right afterwards. This would have been perfect because I'm taking my family to go see Shania Twain because my wife and son love Shania Twain. We're heading to Bangor the week later. So it would have been really kind of helpful because I could have gone to Slayer and then gone to Shania. They could have gone to Shania Twain the night after, and it would have been a hell of a lot closer than about the same. A little longer, I guess, for a drive. Bangor is a little closer, but still no customs or anything like that. So, but anyways,
say where it is. Like what? Does it give like an arena or an outdoor?
No, I think it's outside somewhere, but it doesn't. No, I like the ad is kind of weird. It's just
I couldn't see anything.
I thought it was fake at first because I was like, okay, this is a crappy ad. It just it's kind of weird. I'll show the ad there. I got it open. It's just kind of way you can't really see it, I guess. But
and it wasn't even clear to me that all those are separate days. Like at first I was thinking they're different stages for like a weekend fest, but
no, they've got like the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th.
I know it's massive festival, like 2 weeks long.
Yeah, it's really like Slayer is right between Hozier and Shania Twain. So
Hoosier's like a pop
Hoosier
band. Yeah, like a popular band.
Yeah. So and Def Leppard's there with Extreme, and then there's a lot of other bands there, like smaller bands, like Avril Lavigne is headlining. Simple Plan's there. Then you have Benson Boone. I'm not sure who that is. And then George Thorogood, who I actually really like. But anyways, an interesting thing. I thought, wow, Slayer, that's going to be cool.
And it's funny too, Jim? Like you see Slayer, Mastodon fits,
Yeah,
and then every other band that night is like a
yeah.
complete mystery,
Oh yeah.
right? Like I don't
Yes,
even
sir.
think they're metal bands.
No, I don't think they are either. I didn't know who they were, and like,
I know.
it's just, you made a great point. If you buy I had word. I don't know if it's the one night or if it's the whole. I heard it was a pass. It was $165. So I don't know if that's. I don't know, but I mean, the interesting thing is yeah, like if you buy a pass to that, you're a, you know, Shania Twain's going to be a huge draw here for sure, and probably Rod Stewart. I think it's his last tours that he's doing. And then these guys are going to go to Slayer. like,
Yeah, no, realistically, Slayer might have the smallest crowd on that billing.
quite
They probably
possibly,
will.
it's not
Yeah,
mainstream at all. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
I think if it was in Montreal, it would be a lot different for sure. Like Montreal Slayer would be like, but anyways, kind
Yeah,
of neat. And,
cool.
but definitely kind of weird, but interesting. It all kind of erupted today. So, what am I spinning? I got some new stuff. I picked up the new Kill Switch Engage, much to the
Cool.
chagrin of Billy, album. The Consequence. Now it's really kind of cool. This year is an embossed, so it's got a raised cover. It's really well
Yeah.
done. It's got a lot of hate online. I'm reading, like it's ranking really low, but I think it's really good. I mean, it's a lot different. It's not as screamy or as high or as heavy as a lot of their older albums, but and these guys are getting older too, just like everybody else. But I think it's a great album. I would rank it solid 8 out of 10 for me. Pretty good stuff. So, and then I made a trek to the used record store and I picked up a really cool classic, and it was an
Nice.
original one from Blind Guardian. It's not the redone one. Beyond the Red Mirror, Wicked, one of my favorite albums. I also picked up kind of a fun one. I like the cover more than anything. The Halloween,
That's cool.
the metal
Okay.
jukebox.
Good body.
It's got some ABBA track on there, and they do a lot of stuff. A lot of cool covers and stuff. I'm not really super into covers, but still a pretty cool album nonetheless. And that's the original one too. It's not. They just remastered the and released it, I believe, late last year. And I'm gone on this huge kick for Bonfire, sort of a German, guess you could say, traditional heavy metal band, maybe a little bit more symphonic, not symphonic, maybe a bit more power metal-ish. They just had a new album out, so I'm waiting on getting the new album. But I was able to pick this up, and this is Point Blank. Apparently, this was an album and I'm not totally familiar with these guys. This was an album released in the 80s, and this is the 2023 edition. So it has different album art. I believe it even has the different members. It's an updated re-recording of the original the original album. So definitely kind of cool. And there's a number of the ones from the 80s that they've done this way. So kind of neat, but really accessible for people. It's got some really good heavy songs on it. Some more lighter fare, a little bit more power metalish in some parts. They're German, so it totally fits the bill. And their new album really kicks ass. Really good, kind of a mix between party, heavy, power metal, traditional, and a lot of party kind of hard rock on there too. So, but anyways, that's what I got, guys.
Cool. Ken, over to you.
Yeah, I have one thing today. I did receive promo for the new Game Over CD that's coming out on April 25th. 25th, that's right. And it's Italian thrash. They've been around for quite a long time. This is their sixth album.
Mm-hmm.
It's called the Face the End. So it's kind of cool. The cover is kind of neat. It has this sort of 80s homage to like a horror movie poster with this girl. She's like on the ground sprawling, and this creature, demons coming to the door behind her. It looks pretty neat.
Yeah.
I've had a chance to hear it. It's not bad. It's got some pretty good thrashers. It's not as heavy as previous albums, but I'm looking forward to it. I know their drummer Vendor, who's a friend of mine. I did some CD cover work for his previous band, Violent Spread. So I've been following this band for quite a while since he joined. And I know Jim here is going to be doing the review for Thrashcast. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. We'll see how that goes. How getting Jim's thoughts about it will be good. So, but
Oh
that's about
yeah.
all I have for this week. It's a very quiet week for me.
Okay, cool. Just one quick thing. Reminder to folks, I'm pretty excited about it. And today, Hell's Heroes launched the
Yeah.
set list for what's for the festival. So coming up, it's yeah, Jim's got Warlord there, March 20th to March 22nd, and a pre-fest on the 19th. And talk about a pre-fest. It's the evening, and they've got like Satan,
Wow.
Lead Lord, Riot, uh,
Oh,
or sometimes they're called Riot 5 now. I mean, it's just a lineup is stacked. Like I've said it before, this is, in my opinion, the best U.S. heavy metal festival. It's really close for North Americans. You don't have to go to Europe. And I guess it depends on your taste, but it's probably the only festival, including European festivals, that sort of focus on the true metal definition. So you won't get any of these like trendy core bands. You're not going to get any new metal. I mean, this is like like a lot of them are '80s bands that a lot of us grew up with, but also a lot of newer bands playing that style. So it's again not just limited to the old guys. Last year, like Sodom was a headliner, and Queensryche, and the other headliner, Candlemass last year,
oh, cool.
were kind of the headliners. I mean, this year the headliners are Saxon,
Nice.
Bath, and Crimson Glory, who we haven't seen Crimson Glory in what, decades.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
one
that's
time.
cool. Like in terms of thrash, a lot of great stuff. Like D.R.I. Will be performing there, and Hyrax, and I can't even remember them all. Like Coroner is there, Nasty Savage. Like they really focus on the originators in the scene. So that's pretty cool. So encourage people to check that out. Tickets aren't crazy. I'm gonna, if I remember right, like 250 US.
That's pretty
And
good.
it'll get you 3 complete days, morning to night, of great music. So, and yeah, it takes place in Houston. It's really not expensive. Like my hotel rooms, maybe about $150 a night. So nothing crazy. So yeah, well worth it, I think, if people want to give it a try.
And what I like about it too is they get bands, older bands that are releasing albums in the last year and a half, 2 years, like Satan, Riot 5. That Riot album was amazing.
Oh,
That
it's
probably should
amazing.
have
Yeah, yeah, I
made
love
my
it.
that would have been making my top 20 albums
Mean
last year. That
Street,
was and
right?
that
Yeah,
Satan album was wicked.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they also really go out of their way to find bands that haven't played like in a while, right? So Crimson Glory, for example, would be
Yeah.
one of them.
No, that's wicked. And I mean Warlord's gonna be there. I don't know the last time they played in the US, like
Yeah, Warlords there. You got Onslaught,
oh,
um,
onslaught.
Enforcer, Raven. I mean, the list, I can't even read the list. I have it here on my phone. It's so damn small. There's so many bands that are playing. So, yeah, so pretty much stick with traditional metal, thrash, a little bit of black metal, and death metal. Uh,
Wow.
and
That's
they don't
that's
go out of that, like, none of the core bands or stuff or new metal.
Well, that's a good balance of bands.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think
So,
so. I think it's pretty cool.
and
And
it's in
then,
Texas again, right, Billy?
sorry?
It's in Texas again.
Yeah,
Houston,
Houston,
yeah.
Texas.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a great location for it.
Yeah, no, it's good location. Weather's usually pretty good in March.
Hmm.
And I would argue it's probably the cheap if you're going to go to a festival and you're in Canada or the northern eastern US, it's probably the
Hmm.
cheapest festival you'll go to. So
Cool.
that's cool. And then in terms of what's spinning, so speaking of old school metal, but done by a modern band, I'm going to Edmonton and Calgary, our home country, and I'm spinning two albums I just picked up.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh,
so
nice.
Riot City,
Yeah.
Electric Elite from 2022, and my favorite of them all, Burn the Night,
Yeah,
uh,
I love that
from
album too.
Wow.
That's a great
2019.
album.
So Yeah, if you like new wave of heavy metal, but
Yeah.
new wave of British metal, but done by modern traditional bands. So new wave of traditional heavy metal. It's a mouthful, but yeah, I mean Canada has so many great bands, and Riot City's one of them.
That vocalist is insane too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's good. I like him.
Such high notes. Wow.
And and speaking of Canadian, Exciter's playing at Hell Zeros.
Is Exciter playing?
Yeah, Exciter's there, and same with, well, not Canadian, but one I'd love to see is Cavalera. Oh man,
Oh, I
you're
forgot
gonna have
about
such a
Cavallari. Yeah,
great
yeah,
time.
yeah. Yeah, and he's doing a special set of the three
Yes.
Oh,
remake albums. So it's going to be all old school.
Yeah, that
wicked,
should be good.
Yeah, so that should be good. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Cool.
crazy man.
Okay, so back to our featured album again, D.R.I. Thrash Zone. So maybe a quick biography. So, speaking of Houston again, D.R.I. was actually originally formed in Houston in 1982, but then they later relocated to California. We'll discuss this a bit in our question section, but like certainly in my opinion, I think they're definitely the pioneer or one of the two or three pioneers of the crossover scene. Essentially released 6 albums and one sort of seminal EP, which was their first. Um, some talk of a new album over the last decade. I don't get it. I'm not going to hold my breath. But for a band who's relentlessly touring, it's not like they've given, they're not playing. I don't understand why we don't get a new album. So
Mm.
that's a bit odd. And back to my point of relentlessly touring. I mean, other than when the guitarist got cancer for that chunk or COVID. I mean, these guys do like 70 to 100 shows a year, and they're still doing it. They just crisscross all over the place. It's insane. They're on the road nonstop. Um, so, like in terms of the people we'll be talking about, two of the main guys who are still there today, Kurt Brecht is the lead vocalist, and Spike Cassidy is the guitarist and does a lot of the backing vocals on the album we're talking about today. John Menner was bass, and Felix Griffin was drums, and so both of those guys are no longer in the band and have been replaced with some newer folks. So. That's a bit of background about D.R.I. I think that sums it up. I think they're pretty well known. So we'll dive into the D.R.I. questions. So Jim, I'm going to start with you. So let's talk the first EP, the Dirty
Mhm.
Rotting EP, and the first LP dealing with it. These were maybe a bit more on the punk side, but I'd argue dealing with it definitely started showing thrash elements. But what do you guys think about that before they fully got into crossover mode?
I thought it was pretty good because I've always been a punk fan as well. So I wasn't a punk fan first, but I kind of got drawn into punk, after I got into metal, only because it was another form of fringe music, I guess you could call it. And I really liked it. It went backwards. Obviously, the Ramones have always, I picked up a lot of their albums in the 80s and even some of the ones in the early 90s and that, like Mondo Bizarro and Acid Trip and stuff like that. It was a little bit different as it went on compared to the older stuff. And the older stuff was much more. And I always was a huge Misfits fan, which would be kind of more of a little bit more of a horror punk thing. So this just slid right in for me. I had the album for dealing with it, and then crossover in '87 is where everything kind of started to get. You could see elements of it leading up, so
Yeah.
I liked it. I mean, I like it. It's a natural progression in this, and there's so many great bands that around that time, like Cryptic Slaughter, Suicidal Tendencies, but these guys were almost kind of the starting point of it and really brought it to the forefront. And their earlier albums and that EP definitely, and the LP was definitely much more punk infused. I like it.
Cool. Ken?
Yeah, I've heard them. I think they're all right. I was more into like DOA and Dead Kennedys for quite a long time, but I'd heard of DRI back then because they were kind of always associated in that circle of kind of punk bands. Funny thing for me though, when I got into Anthrax, that's when I sort of swung back around to
Mhm.
D.R.I. because I know Scott talked endlessly about D.R.I. and
Yeah,
of course Anthrax had S.O.D., their own kind of punk
exactly.
thrash offering. So that's how I got into them. Both albums are okay. I don't own them. I've heard them both though. They're not bad. I don't mind them, but I see Jim's point about when you get the crossover, that's when you start getting this whole big revelation where the music gets much more metallic sounding. But I think they're both pretty decent. They're pretty decent albums for the time.
And you know what, too? Another good point is like when you break down like Corrosion of Conformity's original albums were
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot more punkier than they
Well, the first
became
two.
as
Yeah.
they went on. They were
Yeah, yeah.
another one too.
Yep.
And SOD, yeah, I think I think they got gained a lot of momentum when SOD came out as well because everybody loved the abbreviate like DRI, SOD. They just kind of went with it, kind of. But oh yeah, even Nuclear Assault's original stuff was kind of like that too. It's pretty neat stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of with you guys. I mean, the first EP's a little hard for me. I mean,
Yeah.
the song is under a minute, so it's a total. I mean, it's like the raw punk stuff, right? Like it's the production is dreadful. Like I own it, but I never play it. Like
Mm-hmm.
I re-listened to it again prior to this. It's just not for me. Like I'm
Yeah.
not a big fan of that, but I respect what they were doing and what they did at the time, and so yeah, not knocking it in any way. It's a little harsh and short for me. And then dealing with it, I like because you're right, Jim. Crossover is the switch is like fully switched to
Mm-hmm.
thrash crossover thrash, but there's no doubt this album had many elements of what
Oh
was.
yeah.
So I kind of view this as probably the first, or one of the first crossover thrash albums, and that brings you to 85.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the bands are going to be 86, 87, who are crossover oriented. So, but anyways, yeah. So I largely agree with you guys. So on that topic, and Jim, you were kind of going there a little bit, but so like in my view, like I definitely feel DRI are a crossover pioneer. So we'll start with you this time, Ken. Do you agree? Do you think DRI is one of the originals, or who should there be somebody else who gets a bit more credit for the scene?
No, they get the credit. For
Yeah.
sure they get the credit because
Yeah.
I mean, crossover wasn't even termed until they actually like the idea of crossover thrash. It wasn't even like coined until they started doing it. Nobody had talked about it. So when they made that leap over onto the crossover album,
Yeah.
obviously that's what the press took it up and hey, these guys are doing great, and it had a metallic sound. So it's obvious to me that they were the first to do that, and they toured relentlessly when they did the crossover album. So they were already playing with bands like Anthrax, Exodus, Violence. Like they were playing with all those bands. So it's pretty clear to me where the that they were the I guess the forerunners of that style. And then look at all the other bands that they influenced,
Mm-hmm.
like Anthrax, like Exodus, like Violence. Like there's so many other bands that were inspired by that sound. And then if you even, as Jim was saying earlier, like yeah, COC for example,
Yeah.
Moth, Cryptic Slaughter,
Yeah.
all these bands, Leeway for example, all these bands who came in with that kind of punk thrash style. So of course, like at the forefront, yeah, they're right at the forefront in my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I pretty much agree. I definitely give them credit to it,
Yeah.
because again, dealing with it was 1985.
Yeah.
So suicidal, like hadn't, in my opinion, hadn't done crossover thrash in
Mm.
1985. I mean, they had the self-titled album in '83 and joined the army in '87. I don't really consider that crossover thrash. Uh,
Yeah. I
I don't know.
agree. Yeah. I
Like
agree.
Crumb Suckers might be close, right? Their
Cro-Mags.
infamous Life of Dreams, but it actually came out a couple months after dealing with it. Cryptic Slaughter, first album wasn't until 86. Cro-Mags was again later.
Yeah.
Another one that's close, though, would be SOD, right?
Yeah.
That came out a couple months after this album, 1985, Speak English or Die, but really it was a one-off.
Yeah.
So I don't really give them credit for a whole movement. But yeah, so I agree with you. I think they are they deserve to be the pioneer. But Jim, sorry, I might have cut you off there.
Yeah, no worries.
On that?
No, and I mean, like a lot of this too was also like they coined it, I think, because like Suicidal was more of a kind of a when I was growing up, everybody thought of it more of a skater band,
Yeah.
even though that would pull into like the crossover movement. But like I agree, Join the Army is more of a thrash album. Same with their self-titled, and even How Will I Laugh Tomorrow. I mean that there's crossover elements there, but it's definitely more thrash. And but definitely that term kind of skater as in skateboarding and sort of that gang kind of subculture mentality was more of a suicidal thing that they kind of went with in a little bit more of a direction, although they are a crossover. It's the same thing with Anthrax. I mean, Anthrax's first album, Fistful, in my mind, full-on thrash album, like there's hints of it there, but not until later on. And I think they were such big fans of the crossover movement, they were part of it, that's why SOD happened. So like when you break it apart. But yeah, I agree. I think they're probably the granddaddies to some degree of that movement. I mean, you had a lot of punk bands like GBH and like you were talking about their Ken, that never put out a crossover. These guys stayed full on punk their whole career, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But I think definitely these guys have got a wheel on that car of being the crossover vehicle for sure, a big wheel.
Cool.
Yeah.
We're all in agreement there. So let's jump to question number 3. In terms of like unique elements of D.R.I sound, what appeals to you guys the most? And we can talk the crossover period. Jim?
Oh, the vocals for me. What I love, you know what? I compare them to obviously a different type of genre, but Obituary has a death metal sound that only Obituary has. These guys have that crossover sound, that early thrash sound that only they have. And that's what I kind of compare them, because when you hear Obituary come on, no matter what album it is, it's Obituary. And even other Floridian death metal bands do not sound like Obituary. They have their own sound, and it's a weird kind of feeling. And I find D.R.I, it's just that, and the guitar work, the bass, I think it's more basic, and I really like that. But the vocals just blow me away. It's clear, concise, fast, aggressive, but also it's just really, really cool. And that's what I like about it.
And just to go off of that, because you just mentioned it, but also the vocals though, like from especially in Thrash Zone, also can be very melodic and just as hell, right? Like I mean, I agree. Like my favorite part of the Thrash Zone is the vocals. I think the vocals are fantastic. I mean the music's not the most complex music.
No,
certainly the guitar lead work is. I mean, many songs don't even have much in terms of lead. But the bass is quite good in the mix.
Oh yeah,
and they're just great songwriters. I mean, Jesus, every song is like an anthem or a hook or like a sing along track. They're just really good songwriters, despite maybe not being each of them being the best musician for their instrument. But Ken, what would you add?
Yeah, the same. Like the vocals are the most appealing thing. Lyrically, I like their lyrics.
Yeah.
I like this album for the lyrics. There's a lot of interesting viewpoints about society and life and stuff like that, which I like. But they were good at blending styles, like punk, thrash, speed, heavy metal, and I think the bass. So this is where I see why Anthrax really likes them, because Frankie Bello has a very kind of dominant style in Anthrax, and I see it here, so I can see where they sort of adopted a bit of that like really, really kind of razor fast riffs,
Yeah.
and then throwing that heavy bass to offset things. You
Yeah.
get that here with D.R.I. That's what I like about it. And yeah, it's unmistakable. You know their sound, like what Jim was just saying. Like you're comparing it to, say, I know it's not the best comparison to Obituary, but you know it's them when you hear it.
Yeah.
Like that voice is distinct. No one sounds like him as a
Yeah.
vocalist, and just the music alone. But yeah, that's what I would say about this band.
Yeah. And I also think it spoke to a generation too.
Yeah.
You think about it, we, and we were all part of that generation. Like when you look at the video for Beneath the Wheel, like it's really kind of, you could be kind of classified a little bit as the person who has to be made to conform. I mean, we'll talk about it when we get into the song, but it's just, I think it speaks to a whole generation of people, us trying to all become our own individuals in a time when it was kind of frowned upon. Nowadays, it doesn't matter. But back then, wear a black leather jacket and a Slayer shirt, and you had a group at school. But then there was a lot of people who wore the sweaters and all the preppy garbage.
There was much more division when you were in high school.
Yes.
A nerd crowd, the popular crowd, the outsider crowd. Yeah, I could see what you're saying.
Yeah.
It does appeal. I think there's a large appeal to kids back at the time when this came out.
And I think the punk part of it is that, but then the thrash part of it is bringing it to the time frame of when that was what we wanted as a group of kids. We wanted metal and we wanted thrash. So, I don't know very many. We had a couple of punk guys in our high school who wear punk hair, like the mohawk and stuff, and they wore an exploited patch on the back of their jacket and stuff. But there was only one or two.
It always seems to be an exploited backpack.
Yeah.
The same thing in my high school. There were a few, and they all had that same that backpack.
They have, exploited have a really good image though with that skull. Like it's very recognizable. So
that's right.
I can see why people got into that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then I'll just echo one last comment, Ken's point about the bass. The bass is pretty, for D.R.I, is almost as important as the guitar.
Yeah.
And it takes almost as much, like, it's in the forefront often, like, without the guitar, quite a bit in every single song. So just another kind of cool, unique feature. Okay, so next question. I think I know the answer to this, but so not so much. If you guys want to talk about the album cover, we certainly can. But I was going to go the logo. So I'm showing the actual crossover album because it's the huge logo. But so I guess this is known as the Skanker Man. Like in terms of band logos, what do you guys think of this, Kent?
Well, this is great. There's a really good story behind this.
The high school competition?
No.
Oh, okay.
Eric Breck in '82, I think he went to art school. So this was designed by him as an art school project. So the goal was to create a logo for a company. Now, I guess at the time they had D.R.I. The idea was to do D.R.I. Records, not the actual band. So he did it as that, and then eventually it just, for whatever reasons, got adopted from that onto the actual logo for the band. So I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah.
So basically the skanking, they took that's the term. Basically skanking, as we all know, is just the old-fashioned word for moshing and slam dancing is more or less where they took it from. So the image of the bent over person is pretty much that. It has a very corporate feel, but that was the whole point of the project. So I love the fact that they adopted that into the logo, and it's pretty much universal. You know it when you see it. Like you'll just, you know what that's from. And I thought it was pretty clever in how they've utilized that logo over the years. I think it's a great logo. It's it's so great. Like you know it, and when you put on an album cover, it's just you snap with it. But I love this. It's great.
Yeah, no, me too. Yeah, I think, and you guys might remember I had this in my top 10 album covers.
You did.
Yes.
Yes, you
Just
did.
because I think the logo is so like it
Oh,
perfectly describes the style of the music. So
yes.
yeah, I'm with you, Ken. I think it's great. Although it's funny, right? Like it wasn't on the this is the I think the crossover album is the first time it makes an
They
appearance.
use it. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's not on the EP and it's not on the previous
No.
full length, I
No,
don't think.
no, no.
Yeah, which is weird because he did it like way back in like high school.
82. Yeah, like 82 was
Yeah,
when he on the logo. So
that's
I
odd, but
thought that was interesting. But
yeah. Anything you want to add, Jim?
Oh, I love it. It's the sign of thrash. So
yeah,
it's like, I wonder how many people have this tattooed. It just would blow your mind. And
no
for
patch
me,
on your
I
jacket.
remember seeing it and thought, this is the best thing. Like, I mean, it is a thrash album. It's Thrash Zone. I picture a sign up somewhere, just like men working or the bathroom signs with the stick people. And it's so cool. It's so identifiable. I mean, it's genius.
Yeah.
Probably one of the most genius. We talk a lot about logos. We talk a lot about mascots. This is their mascot, and it's golden. I mean, I think it's just so genius.
Yeah, it's almost, I don't know if you guys find this, but like all the shows I go to or festivals, I rarely see people with a DRI t-shirt or a DRI
Yeah.
back patch anymore. Like, I don't know
Really?
why that is. Like, I rarely see it. Like,
I
you see
see
people
sometimes.
with it, Ken?
Yeah, on jean jackets, like a patch on your jean jacket. I see
So
guys.
still to this day, you see them?
Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
I've seen it off and on. Like maybe not to the point of what you're saying, but I have seen it from
Okay.
time to time.
Yeah, I'm sure some people, I just think it would make a great, like,
Yeah.
the back patch of your battle vest, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it would. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
But all right, cool. And so giving DRI a bit more love. So I'm going to ask you guys, what are your top three albums in case people want to explore beyond the album we're discussing today? Jim, why don't you start with this question?
Well, the first Thrash Zone would probably be my number one favorite, but I love my number two would probably be Crossover. Wicked, wicked album. I have Four of a Kind. I always love the cover on that too.
Yeah, that's a good
It was
problem.
like baseball trading cards. That was kind of cool. There's some good
Yeah,
stuff
good
on
one.
there. Modern World, Suit and Tie Guy, which was probably, I mean, it was a video. I think it was a video single off that. That was wicked. And I don't, Full Speed Ahead wasn't bad. Probably like Definition as well. That's not a bad album either. So it'd be kind of a tie. The first two albums are great, but in the top three, they wouldn't hit it for me only because it was still massively in their infancy. And I think I first heard of them in Crossover, and then the first album I bought would have been Thrash Zone. So.
Cool. Ken?
Yeah, pretty much like Jim, Thrash Zone, Crossover, and then Full Speed Ahead for me. I kind of like that album.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it goes for me. But you know what? All three are good albums, regardless. However you want to, I guess, rank them. They're all good albums. There's not a bad album in the
Yeah,
bunch
no.
for me.
No, I agree. Yeah, for me, it's Thrash Zone, followed by Just by the Skin of Its
Okay,
Teeth,
Four of a Kind.
and then Crossover right
cool.
after. All right, cool. And then last very quick question. Given that DRI is arguably the band that tours more than anybody else, just quickly, have you guys had a chance to see them live?
No.
Wish I
Okay. So we got two no's.
They
So,
never come to Halifax.
But
huh?
you definitely right. Billy, you seen them live?
Yeah, I saw them like probably 6 or 7 times, and that's mainly due to festivals.
Yeah.
Right.
But I got to see them a few times in the U.S. because I don't know if they have trouble crossing the Canadian border, but they're just nonstop in the U.S. So
I looked it up. If you look it up, they haven't done a lot of Canadian shows.
yeah, that's why I have a feeling maybe somebody has like like the Canadian border could be pretty tough, right? You have one
Yeah.
issue and you'll never get across.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So yeah, and then they're at Hell's Heroes in 3 weeks, so I look forward
Nice.
to that. And I think probably like one of the things, and you guys have pointed it out already, but why they're so much fun live is because these songs, right? Like
Yeah.
they're just they're not like super complex. So you don't gotta
No.
sit there paying attention. Like you could just sit there, have a blast. They're 100% mosh inducing, head
Yeah.
banging,
Yeah.
sing along. Like it just the perfect have fun like night, have a beer
Yeah.
and watch a band, right? It's the exact opposite of like Dream Theater, where you gotta focus on like everything that's going on, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so let's jump to excuse me, jump to the actual album, Thrash Zone. So we'll do our track by track. Ken, we'll start with you. Thrasher is first up.
Yeah, this is a good song. I mean, it's obviously the anthemic song to start with. You know, going to the pit, you get engulfed with the frenzy of the crowd, kind of thing. So yeah, it's a typical song for them to write and start an album with. So you get that kind of tempo. It's slow at the start, then the chug start, and then it just rips and it doesn't stop from there. For some reason, that ga 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 gung chug reminds me of the Ultimate Warrior's song in the WWE. It's very similar when he would just burst out of when the entrance music started. It kind of reminds me of that, but I guess this is the kind of music that you would write that for. There are a lot of great gang shouts.
Yeah.
I mean, like at 156 when they start saying "mark it," "mark in the pit," like it's so great, and it's just a really really good song. The tempo changes are what I think really make the riffing sound great for me. But as an opening song, yeah, this will get the adrenaline going.
Yeah. And I guess that sort of ties into what's happening on the album cover, right?
Oh,
Kind of
yeah.
like everybody thrashing during the show. Jim?
Oh, yeah. And I mean, everything Ken said, he hits it. But I like it how the vocals slow and speed up and they're super clear. But I really like some of the lyrics, like for instance, banging and moshing like they don't give a shit in the
Yeah,
pit. And then I love it how it fades out in the pit. And I
yeah,
love those anthemic lines that are
Oh,
in
yeah.
almost every song because it just gets you going. It just, you can have 6 to 12 beer and you can just be there with your shirt off, thrashing around. And that's what it's all about. I mean, I won't take my shirt off now because Greenpeace will tow me out. But anyways, it is just amazing and it gets you going. You could feel it like back in the 80s when when these guys were just as old as kind of just a little bit older than we were, and they're throwing this out there. It would be just so much fun. I see me as 15, 17, 18-year-old me just eating this up and having so much fun for sure. And that's what it's all about. This song is pretty much anthemic like most of the album.
yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I agree with you guys. I guess just one thing I'll add, this applies to the whole album, but I think the production is killer.
Yeah,
Like I love the way this album sounds. Like
so
I
do I.
wouldn't change anything.
I find it's got like almost a very clear, but kind of, I think maybe the bass brings a little bit of lo-fi with it that just keeps it.
Oh
Man,
yeah.
it's just, there's no real high, which this is what it's all about. And I think the bass really plays into that. And I really, really I
Well,
love it.
the drums too. Like the drums
Oh, for
and
Yeah.
the
sure.
bass
Yeah.
are very distinct in the way
Yeah.
that they're recorded. So you're right, Billy. The recording is very key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sound.
And then the last thing I'll point out, and it Ken already did, but this applies to Thrasher and almost every song on the album, and it goes back to these guys being able to craft like excellent songs.
Yeah.
Every song has about two, two or
Yes.
three key tempo changes, and they're executed to perfection. Right?
Yeah.
It's not about just okay, I'm going to change timing and switch, or I'm just going to switch to this, or do a breakdown out of nowhere. I mean, everything has a purpose,
Yeah.
and they all come off and make you headbang that much harder and make you want to run in the mosh pit. Like they're
Yeah.
just perfectly placed. Like it's crazy how well they do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so track number 2, Beneath the Wheel, Jim.
Yeah. I mean, an awesome. This is one of their again, an anthemic song, and one of the most. They had the video for this, that
Yeah, the
MTV played, and they got a lot of play with this album. It's a really cool video. It kind of, again, it talks about sort of being that outcast at school. I mean, Ken's going to get into the lyricist part of it, but I love the video where you've got all the sporty guys and they're all getting their A's in class, and you got the headbanger guy tying his hair back and covering up his shirt, and he's he's going to get left off beneath the wheel if he doesn't, and I love at the last line there, you catch up at the end. I love that. Beneath the wheel, and it's wicked. At 3:50, the song does that tempo change as well, and there's a couple of them in there. I mean, it has that heavy opening riff, and the bass in this is it's kind of like a riff or a lick throughout the song of the heavy bass, which just really, really captivates the listener, and it's so catchy. I mean, this should have been played on the radio, and it's a great track. It's got a great message too, and it's the metalheads in my school, which I was one of them. You had all the preppy guys, you had the metalhead guys, and whatever, and girls, and then the punk couple guys were below them. So, and then you had the nerdy people and all that. It kind of just kept going, but there was always that sort of riff between, oh yeah, he's got long hair. So that song definitely speaks to kind of our generation for sure.
Yeah, no, cool. I think you hit on a lot of those things. And like, just one of my favorite parts of the song is, like towards this is one of the longer songs. So they actually get to do some different stuff. Like there's a great sort of drum and like bass, almost solo section around 125, but like at 107, it's like Kurt just shouts "go," and all of a sudden the song takes off. Right? It's such a simple thing, but again, it's so damn memorable. I love it. Anything else, Ken, on your side?
Yeah, you guys said it all. I'll just comment quickly on the lyrical portion of it. So like basically the whole point of the song is like you're trying to keep up with life. And there's a lot of pressures with that. And when you can't, you fall behind the wheel. So that goes back to the chorus when they say beneath the wheel, you fall behind the wheel because that's the pressures of life. So it's simple, but I think Jim and even you, Billy, it's very effective the way that message is kind of delivered in the song. And I think all the songs are like that. Each song has kind of like a very kind of interesting message lyrically, but it's delivered in a very methodical way on every song. And that's what makes this album so unique. But yeah, this is a good song. I can see why it was on like MTV and why it was on Headbangers Ball and why it did get some radio play. It makes sense. It just totally makes sense. And I think the song was also used for Skater for that Skate 2. So obviously they knew that you're trying to appealing to that young skater crowd. So smart song. Very, very smart.
Sorry,
song.
What was that? It was used for what? Skating?
Skater 2.
What's that, a movie?
It's a video game.
Oh, a video game. Okay.
From back in the day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so, and the video just speaks to our, like, we will let our hair down. We will show our D.R.I shirt. Yeah. We don't care if we fall beneath the wheel. For a little bit. We have to get good grades though.
Yeah, but I mean that whole point, it does very much appeal to kids.
Oh yeah.
Like people our age when we were like teenagers. I could see that. So I see this band as very appealing to young people. So that's their style and their sound. So I'm not surprised.
And I wanted to be that outcast. I was cheering for him in the video, like, screw those other guys. They're bigger and they're blonde and they've got rugby shirts on, whatever.
Cool. So moving on, we got a few tracks on this album. It's the opposite of what was the album we did with just 7 songs? Was that Destruction? Right?
Yeah.
So Ken, we'll go with you. Enemy Within, track number 3.
Yeah, the song is pretty good. I mean, again they want to go back to the inner. The whole point of the song is that you're fighting the internal struggles in your mind. So the chorus very much emphasizes how the mind leads you to wishing you were dead and your own lack of self-control. So I like that. It's sort of kind of a song where I think suicidal tendencies would would have picked to talk about stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the song is pretty heavy. It's got some heavy riffs throughout the song. The 1 minute mark, it slows down and then after that, it's just the chug start. That tempo picks up and it goes crazy. I love that. And then all the gang shouts are fantastic, and the lyrics are great. Enemy within my head. I often wish that I was dead. That's so great. Like it's smart.
Yeah.
Song. Another smart song in my mind.
And then the chorus finish, like I wrote it down.
Enemy.
Right? No self-control on my own mind. Got to stop. There's no more time. Like and again, as I always say, I'm not always into the lyrics, but I just love the way he sings the damn line and the chorus. It's so catchy. Jim, anything you want to share?
That bass riff at 236. I mean, it's just amazing. But I like the end of the song, Enemy, Enemy. I agree with everything you guys said. This is another wicked track. And I mean, it's only 2 minutes and 44 seconds long. So you're coming off of Beneath the Wheel. And this also, for me, has more of it kind of lets into a bit of more of a crossover vibe than Beneath the Wheel had. A little bit more for me anyways. But no, killer track.
Cool. So next up, track number 4, Strategy. Jim, we'll go with you.
Yeah, this has a really cool drum intro that leads into a wicked thrash chug. There's a lot of good thrash chugs, kind of supplementing with the drums and the bass in this. I think, like Billy, you said, and Ken, you guys said at the start that the bass is even more predominant. I find that they back it up with sort of the guitar thrash chug that makes it more of a backup to that than anything else. This is definitely more of a thrash song for me, but it's got a catchy chorus, and I just think it's really catchy. I mean, you're playing it off with that drum intro and that thrash chug until 128 when the vocals start to cut in. So it goes for quite a while before that even starts. And this is another longer one at just around 4:19. So it's another great track.
Yeah, Ken.
Yeah, it is. It's a really good song. I like this song for a lot of reasons. Again, lyrically, I like it because I like the way the chorus plays into the whole idea of strategy. And then so for me, like what I interpret from the lyrics is that, it's about battles with your mental health. And the chorus kind of emphasizes when they do the gang shots for strategy, that your mind is trying to strategize how to navigate your inner turmoil mental challenges. So I think that's great. It's really clever. Again, it's simple. It's not overly complicated. And like Jim said, those chugs just really add on to the song. So it's fantastic. I will say that the beginning part, I know it's like the drum, it's almost very industrial sounding. It has a kind of industrial metal sound right at the start, which I think is clever because, for this kind of an album, you wouldn't expect that little isolated moment to start like that. So I think that's clever. I think the song is clever for me, from my taste, but I think it's a really good song as well.
Yeah. Like even that weird like guitar intro at the beginning, right? It's all like it's very different.
But you know what, Billy? That's something Anthrax would do in their songs. They would do the same thing where they'd have this kind of almost like drum-like kind of weird guitar intro. They would do that a lot in their songs. So I very much see where Anthrax was totally inspired by this band to do that in their music. But
cool. Yeah, and the only other thing, I forget the time, like it's definitely near the end, like somewhere between 3.5, but it's kind of like the song, it feels like it's going to end. It's in the last minute, it happens somewhere, but then no, like it's coming back and it's going to come back even more aggressive. So yeah, that's a pretty cool way to end the track. So yeah, I agree with you guys. It's a good one. So track number 5, Labeled Uncurable. Ken?
Yeah, this is great too. I mean, I love the dominant start with the guitars right at the beginning of the song. And then like 40 seconds in that riff and that tempo, it just really kicks in. So great. And then it leads to all those gang shouts. And I love how it's labeled uncurable, which is The whole point of
Mhm.
the song is that somebody may be dealing with, they may have cancer. It's obviously saying that somebody is dealing with being sick. So it's possible that they have cancer. So I think it's interesting how they just throw that little tidbit in there with the song. And it just drives forward to that bass, like that, the bass, heavy bass. It's so great. The chugging is great. I think this is a really good song as well for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, no, those are all good points. And the one sort of one thing that sits kind of in the middle of it all, like that it's weird enough to get a guitar solo
Yeah.
on this album, but at 150, there's like a very melodic guitar solo that really contrasts with the heavy guitar chugging. So that kind of stands out, but I think it's pretty cool. It works well in the song. Jim?
Yeah, this is probably one of my top 3 or 4. I mean, that 214, you got that bass riff again. That's really identifiable, and everything you guys said. I mean, this is another strong. I love that guitar riff that leads into the vocals, and there's a lot of that. And I think they pull it off with pinpoint accuracy, but it's basic, but it doesn't feel that way. So I think and to make it feel that way, and it's that way, it just shows how thought how they probably thought this out pretty well. And I think they totally they bring their A game on this one. It's awesome.
Yeah. And again, it gets back to that songwriting, right? These guys are so damn good at just writing a song. Nothing too fancy, but it's just well done for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So track number 6 will stay with you, Jim. Maybe a slightly punkier
Yeah,
song. You say I'm scum.
yeah, this one here's a pretty fast one. It's got cool, it's got that, and I believe this was labeled a bonus track on some of the ways that it's on there. I don't think it's actually on my cassette, my original, but this definitely has a suicidal vibe for me. Definitely a punk sound. I compare it to like I Saw Your Mommy a little bit. It's got kind of that vibe for me from Suicidal Tendency. So, and I really, really like it. I think this was on the LP, but I don't believe it was on the original cassette.
No,
I
so
didn't.
actually, yeah,
It's not.
I'm just checking because, like, I also have this on CD, so I have
Yeah.
this track, but
Yeah.
it's not on the original vinyl.
It's on the
Oh, okay.
CD.
No,
It's on the
so
CD.
the original vinyl goes strategy, labeled uncurable, and then gun control.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And labeled Uncurable, I don't believe was on my cassette either. I think that was a
really,
bonus track as
Really?
well. Yeah, yeah. I packed up my cassettes after I only have a few of them out, but I didn't pull this one because it's up in my attic. But I remember going like, oh, interesting. But yeah, this is a really cool track. It's quick. It's a minute 55 seconds,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it really reminds me of like I Saw Your Mommy from Suicidal Tendencies. Very, very punkish and just in and out, super quick. Could have been off their first 2 albums easily.
Yeah, that's what I just view it as a throwback to
Yeah.
their early start, right? But it works, right?
Oh
Like it
yeah.
fits in, like because this is the first time we get something like this on the album. So, Ken, anything you'd add?
You guys pretty much said it all. Yeah, I would
Yeah.
agree. It's like a kind of a throwback to the earlier sound. I mean, it's really short. There isn't really much to say about it, but it's all right. I don't mind it. It's a little bit of a break before you get to the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 songs where they're fucking awesome.
Yeah.
So like, I think it's where they stuck this song. It's fine. It's
Yeah,
fine for what it is.
no, I agree. So sticking with you, Ken, gun control. I think I know lyrically what this is about, but you could confirm it.
I love this song. This is where they get a little political because now they want to
Yeah,
talk about the idea of advocating for like stricter gun laws and how owning a firearm and that there's the dangers of what an automatic weapon can do for hurting and killing people. So I like that, but what I like about the song is they're not preachy about it and they get right to the point. There's no joking around here. This is like gun control and like you get that the opening with the drums and it's just and then the guns going off and then I
yeah,
like that. And then the massive riffs with those guitars. Wow, when they just light up, they light that whole song up. Lots of samples on it.
Yeah.
So it almost has a little bit of an industrial sound in the sense that a lot of industrial bands would employ background samples to, I guess, to fill the song out. They do it here, but what I like here is it's not overly done. It's just in the background, so it really adds to the song. And I love all the sirens. I love the gunshots you hear in the
Mhm.
background. It's great. And then you get that one big ending with the ending with the gunshot. Awesome
Yeah.
song. I totally love the
Yeah.
song. It's so great.
Yeah. No, I agree. The yeah, and like that I think is like I don't remember if it's the chorus, but like when they shout lock and load,
Lock and load.
then it
Yeah.
has like the
Ah,
click
you
click of the
stole
gun.
my line.
That's the sample, right? Like that
Yeah,
you're
yeah, yeah.
talking about, isn't it, Ken?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, okay. Okay, that's cool.
I like that part.
Sorry,
It's
Jim.
fun.
I think we both stole it, but yeah, why don't you jump in?
Yeah, I mean it's a great track. I like this kind of movie like with the sirens and the car speeding off and you think okay, and they have that gun. The guns go on for quite some time. It's
Dude, yeah.
for the time like this 1989. It would be a little bit edgy for back then, especially politically. And yes, a lot lock and load. We need gun control. I thought that was pretty cool. But like it's a minute and 35 seconds before the vocals even cut in.
Yeah,
So
true. Yeah, yeah.
you're playing up like a movie kind of. I think it's genius how they do it. They pull it off. I like it, and it's a brutal kind of. It's a great take on such a sensitive subject.
Yeah.
I think it's great. They do a good job with it.
I want to assume, obviously, they wrote this when they were in California, but this is definitely more of a California view than their hometown Texas view.
Oh yes,
One's a little bit more liberal with like gun law views, but
yeah,
For sure. Makes sense.
so yeah, it's kind of funny a band that kind of are from Texas, but then they go to California and do kind of an anti-gun.
yeah.
But anyways, okay, so a great track. I love this one. Kill the words.
Yeah.
Jim, why don't you start?
I think this one's got an interesting sound to it. It's almost like so it has a thrashy intro, but then it has kind of a cool melodic, even touches for me. Like if I could make another subgenre here, a subgenre, I wrote down Southern rock thrash. So it has that
Rock?
kind of feel to it before the vocals cut in, and then it just totally rips in. The vocals come in around 155 ish.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a heavy track after that, and it's just, I mean, you get that massive 306. It just takes off again. I think it's a wicked track. But leading up to where the vocals come on, I kind of get a feeling that there's a lot more melodic southern thrashy rock to it, and I kind of like that. They really, it's not at all. I don't find it crossovery at all. I find it goes from there right to a massive thrash attack. But it's a wicked track.
Yeah, no, this is one of my favorites easily.
Yeah.
And Ken can talk to the lyrics, but like one of my best vocal parts ever of D.R.I. of all time is in this song. And it's not so much about what they're saying lyrically, but it's the way Kurt sings it. But like that verse, the first verse, like when, it's kill the author of the bestseller, place a bounty upon his head, kill the writer of the opposition. And this is the best line on the album. Tell the hit squad I want that man dead. And he really emphasizes that is the thrashiest vocal line of like all time. Like in the chorus and the chant, like I want him dead, I want him dead. So yeah, like I just love every one of those vocal lines are an earworm for me. Even just getting ready for this, I replayed this track in this section like 4 or 5 times. I just love it. So Ken, over to you. I think I know lyrically what it's about, but you could confirm.
Yeah, so it's about censorship and the idea of having the freedom for free speech. So that's their whole point to the song. Jim, though, I wanted to just your point about the Southern rock. I don't get that part of it, but
I get it totally.
No, that's fine. No, that's cool. I mean, I'm glad that's what you get. I would say I get groove. I get sort of groove metal. To me, it's more like a groove metal to me. Just the way the rhythm gets kind of groovy at the start. I don't know. I mean, Southern rock is still an interesting interpretation. I just didn't come to mind when you mentioned it. But because I wrote down like kind of a groovy rhythm at the start. That's what I picked out of it. But I mean, yeah, like you said, Billy, this song is so great. Like the way he sings the song and the whole point about I want that man dead. That's such
Yeah.
a great. And
It's
the
so
other part
good.
that you guys didn't mention, which I find interesting, is that 319 when the vocals become processed
Mhm.
and it's really distorted. That's so weird. It's like that one little section, and it goes up into about 356 before the tempo gets back to where it started. But I found
Um,
that part of the song extremely interesting. Just the
yeah, I'm
whole
trying to think of that. Like using that, like where like a sampling. Like, does it sound like there's like a devil or a demon voice, or am
kind
I
of,
now
yeah,
thinking
yeah,
of
Like
a
a
different
reverb.
song?
yeah, yeah. But it almost sounds like it's distorted. Well,
Yeah.
that's what I got out of it. But I
Okay,
guess
maybe I'm not. Yeah,
you
okay.
could interpret whatever. Well, you could interpret that, Billy. I mean, I
Um,
wouldn't say that's wrong either. I'm just saying that one little section where it
yeah,
gets distorted is like it's interesting. I just think I thought that was kind of cool,
yeah.
but
But yeah,
it's a great song.
he nailed that first chorus and verse so well. He could do whatever he
Yep,
wants. It's-
yep, hell yeah.
uh, all right, cool. So another great track, I would say. Drown You Out. Let's stay with you, Ken.
Yeah, I like this song too because now they're getting a little bit more back into the politics because the
Mhm.
whole point of the song is that they're arguing about how the music industry is way too controlling for what kind of music gets played on mainstream radio. So I think that's kind of cool. The guitars come in really loud, almost industrial like at the start, but those chugging riffs, that's where you get that, and it's like wow, it's music to your ears. And
Yeah.
that tempo, wow, when it speeds up at 58 seconds, holy moly, it's like, whoa, it doesn't stop. And I love Kurt. I love the shouts here where he's like, the drown you out at 150 at the 116 mark. That chorus is so great. But I love it. I think this is another really good song with a good chorus too, on top of that.
Yeah, no doubt. Chorus rules. Jim?
Yeah.
Yeah. You pretty much hit all my timestamps. Like at 103, the vocals cut in, but that it is got a really cool tempo to it. And I think that
Yeah.
just it's a kick-ass song. I mean, I can't add anything else to that. And the chorus is amazing, just like so many. And that bass line throughout the whole
Oh yeah,
song
yeah,
is
yeah.
really, really
Yeah.
predominant in this. And but I mean that the chorus in a lot of these songs are just that's what gets you your fist up in the air and you want to mosh.
Yeah.
And I think this one definitely does that as well.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
again, see, I give these guys, well, Jim would have to make a trip out to Toronto, but we'd have to go for beers and go see this
Oh
band.
yeah.
Be right up front singing these choruses with with Kurt.
Yeah.
Okay, Jim, we'll stick with you. Track number 10, The Trade.
Oh, this is another wicked, wicked song. I mean, probably my favorite on the album. I mean, I've
Really?
got this one's just wicked. I mean, I think it's great. It's got that cool, groovy thrash vibe. At 43 seconds, you have that fast picking that leads into the vocals, which I really, really like. It's got definitely for me more of a punk vocal sound. And the leads and the riffs in this are just so strong. It's a really, really good track. Probably my favorite on the album. But I mean, this part of the album is so strong. I mean, I love Beneath the Wheels, but that's not even my most favorite song on the album. It's probably the most commercial one. And I think this is an underrated track. If people have maybe bought this album or tend to go with more of the more identifiable songs, this may not be it, and you definitely want to check it out.
Yep. Ken, what would you add?
Yeah, yeah. The bass is. I love the bass in this
Oh,
song.
it's
It's
Yeah.
so
so great.
good.
It really stands out. But I like this song too because again, like they get really clever with the idea of writing lyrics and then sort of building it into the chorus to kind of emphasize the point of the song. So like the whole point of this song is about the idea of being a musician and dealing with the day-to-day grind of the trade, as they coin it with the chorus. So like going to show, like dealing with the fans, going on the road kind of thing. The chorus specifically talks about smiling for the cameras, singing, signing records, trying to stay healthy for every show. So I like that. I like that where it gets more introspective here. But yeah, I would agree, Jim. This is a really well written, clever song, and the bass is what I think stands out the most for me on it.
Yeah, the bass is fantastic. Yeah.
Mm.
You guys have hit it. There's nothing nothing I need to add on that. Uh, okay, so I'm curious to hear your opinion on the next three tracks, but we'll kind of take them as we go. Ken, Standing in Line, track number 11.
Yeah, this is great. Very downbeat lyrical theme. I sort of picked this out right away. So the whole point is that they're talking about hitting rock bottom and how you deal with that. So like the lyrics say like, back to the hotel on Welfare Street,
Yeah.
here than bed because I'm so beat. I love that. It's a very kind of it's a very downbeat song, but I like it. I like the fact that they're not even whining about it. They're just saying, yeah, this is what fucking life is, and this is what we do. I love it. It's a quick. I sort of turned it as a quick chugger, very quick, very quick.
Yeah.
It's great. I like the song a lot too. Very cleverly written for me.
Okay. Yeah, I'm of the opinion that I could leave off tracks 11, 12, and 13.
Oh, interesting.
And then go right from like the trade into
Abduction.
abduction. But
Okay.
again, that's me. That's why I'm curious to see if I'm like a loner here. Like I don't hate any of the songs of these three tracks, but like, and so let's stick with Standing in Line. It's a little bit more of the punk style a little bit, but
Yeah.
like it's a minute and 30 seconds. Like I understand, Ken, your view lyrically there's something to say, but musically if I'm honest, I don't think it adds a lot to the album. I mean, you've just had like 10 masterpieces, and then I find it slows down at Standing in Line, Give a Hoot, and Worker Bee. But again, that's a minor thing because this album is a 12 out of 10 with or without those songs. But
Yeah.
Jim, over to you.
Well, it's a good bassy track for sure. I think it's got that intro, and I like it. It's punky. I kind of like it. It's only a minute and 35. I see where you're coming from though, Billy, because the next couple, like Give a Hoot. I mean, we're sticking with this one, but the next two are a little bit kind of for me. But this one here, I don't mind. I kind of like it. I think it's pretty cool. I think it's got a good spot on the album too. But the album, well, we'll talk about the ending when we get to it.
Yeah, no, so okay, so yeah, and I would say of those three I mentioned, Standing in Line is my favorite of them.
Yeah.
So I'm not like greatly offside from you guys. Okay, so Jim, we're still with you.
Give a hoot.
Give a hoot. What
I mean, this is just a funny song. I think it's kind of comical. I love I give a hoot, but I still pollute. So I love the lines, and this is a total crossover song. It starts off with that kind of cool chug with the slide. It's got a bit of a slow intro. I can't believe they kept this kind of up for 3 and almost 4 minutes long. Yeah. It's almost like the fourth longest song on the album. But for me, it would be the weaker end of the album for me. I think you've got 14 tracks on this with on the CD. So, it's kind of, a couple of the songs, the next song we're going to talk about is under a minute. So there really is some time in there. I mean, I don't even know what the length of the whole album is, but
45, 46.
Yeah, it's still not super long, but yeah, I'm with you, Billy, on this one, and the next one could probably come off for me, and it'd still be like a good way of putting it. It's a 12 out of 10, even with those songs on it or off it.
So I don't know, like it's been almost a year we've been going together, so you would think I'd be able to read Ken's face by now. Not totally.
I think he likes it.
Halfway through, like I'm gonna go, he likes it, but we'll see.
Actually, I do like the song, and I like it.
There you go.
I like
he was itching to jump in. I could tell he was starting to move
like
around
because lyrically it's self-deprecation. Because the whole point is that what he's saying is that we're trying to be conscious about the environment, but we still fucking pollute anyways. So you have to wonder: is he referring to himself? Is he referring to like people or
society?
I kind of like it because there's a little bit. It's humorous, yes, but there's also a little bit of self-deprecation in the song, and it's clever for that wise. Now, if we're talking about where it falls in place, yeah, it's probably not the best song, I was reading a comment online where somebody was saying that it sounds like Sad But True, Metallica.
Yeah,
And I was like, I could see that, but of course then Metallica would have had to copy these guys because they were the originators of the song.
especially at the start. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what this person online was saying. Is like, this is Sad But True. So I'm like, yeah, I can see that. There's a little bit of dun 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 dun. It's okay, you get that, but I I don't know. I think the song is clever because it's like at the same they're trying to be humorous, but at the same time there's a lot of self-deprecation about the environment, and I like it. So for me, I don't mind the song,
Hmm.
but I could see why you guys might think it should be kept off. I could see that too.
Okay. So we'll stay with you, Ken. I mean, there's not a whole lot to say here. 58 seconds worth of worker bee.
Yeah, again, this is like we're going back to our punk roots, so we want to like slag the idea of working in a factory. That's the whole critique about the song. You know, you are the cog in the wheel doing repetitive work kind of thing. It's all right. This song could definitely be left off. It's almost like we have an idea for a song,
yeah.
but we got bored of it halfway through, so this is what we have. And we're just going to throw on the album. So I think this is the throwaway song for me. This could be totally left off in my mind.
Okay. Jim?
That's what I wrote down, half an effort on this one. I
Yeah,
think it had it been 3.5 minutes long and maybe a little bit more into it, it probably could have been a really good banger of a song. But it's just so. I mean, yeah, it's a total punk crossover song, and they're paying homage to probably their first couple of albums, and
yeah,
that
for
there's
sure.
nothing wrong with that. But I
No,
just
no.
think they could have probably done something else with it. I would have rather the 57 seconds added to Abduction. But anyways, that's just me.
All
Fair
right.
enough.
Well, you mentioned abduction, so that's where we're
Okay.
going next. Off to you.
Oh, this one's a great song.
Yeah, yeah.
What a way to end off the album, especially sort of the last couple of songs for me are kind of bunts rather than home runs. But this is a home run for me. It's kind of a, I mean, I'm gonna let Ken go into the lyrics because it's very having the children in there kind of
Mm.
give it a creepy vibe for me, like knowing about like it's about abduction. So like it's kind of freaky in a way, but at 44 seconds, you got that bass again. It's got that slow, ominous chug. You've got the children sounds that are
Yeah,
throughout it,
Jenny
and then you have the
shouts.
children
Yeah,
actually singing
Jenny
in it,
shouts.
which is kind of
Yeah.
creepy because the song is about abduction, and it just kind of really, I don't know, it just kind of sits with me kind of weird, but I think it's a wicked track, and I think it's an awesome end to the album. I mean, at 2:44, you got that bass riff again. This is another bass heavy track. Just awesome all the way around. I really like it.
Yeah, this is one of my favorites, hands down, without a
Yeah.
doubt. One of my favorite heavy metal songs. And I think you kind of hit it like just the whole opening, right?
Yeah.
Like, you hear the kids playing, it's a park or it's a schoolyard. Then the music kicks in, it's heavy, it's haunting. And then as the band's know when to do, you get a great bass line, and that usually signals they're going to take off in the pacing.
Yeah.
And that certainly like Kurt's fantastic here. He's actually doing even more singing than normal. But yeah, and then to bring the kids choir like into the
Yeah,
chorus,
that's
like
creepy.
singing of like
Kind of
that is
creepy.
so cool.
It
Like
is cool.
it just it's like the kids are standing by him shouting.
Yeah.
So like yeah, like it just works so perfect, right? Like I don't know who came up with that idea. No one else in thrash said, hey, we got to have some kids help us sing the chorus, right? But it makes sense in this track. And lyrically, Ken, you could probably tell us if it all comes together story wise. So over to you.
Yeah, basically, I'll leave this really simple. It's just dark commentary on child abduction. That's it.
Yeah.
It's poignant. They get to the point.
Yeah.
There's no like this happened. So I think they've used like the ominous tones, like the kind of almost creepy horror soundtrack tones into it. You know what's funny though? It's a bookending song to the beginning, but the first song is so different, radically
Yes.
different to
Yeah.
this song. Because
Yeah.
when you hear it, it's like, okay, we're getting a Municipal Waste party thrashing album, but it's not really that. Because when you get to it, the songs get it's more serious and more serious and more serious as it goes to the end of the album, which I find very clever in a lot of ways. Because you could hear this and go, yeah, this is going to be a wicked party album. Not really. Parts of it is. And
Yeah.
then you get song Abduction, and it's like, what the fuck? And it's dark, it's heavy.
Oh yeah.
The creepy moments with the kids singing, I think that's kind of a weird juxtaposition. It's weird, but it works. And I even love how it ends with the child scream at the end.
Yeah.
That's like,
Yes.
oh, let's just put the cherry on top. Let's end it this way. So
Yeah.
I agree, Bill. This is a really, really good thrash metal song with some poignant lyrics thrown in there.
Yep.
And it's, I think when it makes you think, when you have an album like this that starts off with thrash, or where it's all about just, you know, having drinks in the mosh pit and getting in there, and then to go to this kind of, it, if it creeps you out, it's damn ass good. And I think you know the song's name, Abduction, then you have the children aspect of it, and you're like, holy shit, this is a really heavy topic and something that's very taboo, but they do such a great job of making you feel it. And I think that's really, really, it's genius. I think it's genius. I'm with you guys. I think it's one of the best songs on the album.
You know what's funny? Nowadays, this idea of adoption, we hear it every day.
Yeah.
Now, like, it's part of the regular news cycle. But I can imagine in '89, this may have not been talked about as much, or it may
absolutely not.
There was no internet, so it wouldn't. Yeah. It would definitely not be sensationalized, because because I'm on YouTube all the time. There's so many channels talking about child murders, child abductions. So we wouldn't have had any of that background noise back then. So I can imagine that in '89, when this song came out, people were like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
And you're trying to expose something that's really serious. So it's interesting for even how timely the song is for the time.
Yep. Yeah. No, I mean, we're pretty much all in unanimous agreement on pretty much every song here. Maybe a couple to, 11, 12, 13, we feel slightly differently. But, and I don't know about you guys, but like, I probably played this like at least 5, 6 times this week. I mean, this thing aged like wine, right? And no, at least for me, in no way, shape, or form do I feel this sounds dated. Does it?
No.
Old.
No, it doesn't.
As exciting as when I heard it the first time in '89.
And I haven't, and thanks to you, I haven't, like, you brought the idea to the show, and then obviously we start doing our due diligence. But what's great about it is I probably haven't listened to this and I can't remember how long. I mean, I've got the CD, I've got the cassette tape, but I just, there's so much. But like re-listening to it probably 4 times today, and I was just stopping at this song. And a couple of the other songs just sound so, I mean, the whole album sounds so good.
Yeah. And you know what, Billy, when you talk in your earlier question about their influence, you listening to this, I can hear this now. I hear Anthrax again, and I hear some of your bands that we're always inspired by this album for sure. And then even newer bands like Municipal Waste and bands who kind of carry on this kind of crossover style, you can hear it. So it's interesting you asked that question. It's like, these guys were probably the pioneers. They're the forerunners of the style. And it's just a shame that you don't hear, I know they tour a lot, but you don't really hear a lot about them. I know they're not making new music these days. They have that EP back in 2016.
Yeah.
And then you were alluding to earlier that they may be working on new material, but nothing has happened.
Nah, so that rumor started in an interview back in like 2019.
Yeah.
And so we're like 6 years later and nothing. Yeah.
Nothing. Yeah. So it's like Sacred Reich in a lot of ways, where they built a really good reputation. They disappeared. They're still a band, but they don't do anything new. Then out of the blue, they come out with a new record. So it's interesting that how some of these bands work. But
and I think this is the perfect time. I think this would be the perfect time to come out with a new album.
I would agree. I absolutely do agree. But I guess only time will tell.
Well, we got some great albums, so we can't complain.
No.
So we'll live with those. All right, cool. So then that brings us to our last section. So similar to last week, our feature albums from 1989. So each of us have gone through and picked. Jim just gave it away.
Oh, jeez. You saw it? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you flashed the album cover. so there we go. We know what Jim's doing, but anyways, so 1989. Who wants to go first? Jim, Ken? Do you guys?
I'll start. Yeah.
Okay,
So
you go ahead.
here's my reveal.
Nice.
1989, a very big album for me at the time. 89 was a really good year. Like I was getting into a lot of like movies. So I remember, you had Batman, Lethal Weapon 2, and then Pet Sematary and The Fly 2 came out in the theater. So I was always in the theaters. And then this album came out, and it was like August. So it came out in like August 8th. And as soon as it came out, I bought it, and that album cover just blew me away. William Benson. I know we've talked about William Benson previously on other Testament podcasts, but yeah, it's such great album art. It's really, really good album art. And I love the fact that the album itself has such strong songs for me, like, Envy Life, Blessed Contempt, the title track. And, it's also their first record that actually made it to the Billboard 200 charts, and it peaked at number 77, which is good for them. And I love Greenhouse Effect. That was a big song that year. The Ballad was a pretty big song. They started getting a lot of airplay, especially on MTV, Bangers Ball. Like they really, really were out there. And I know they toured that year with Annihilator and Wrathchild America. I didn't see this tour, sadly enough.
That was awesome.
Yeah, I know. I remember you said you've seen that tour, but I unfortunately I did not see it. But yeah, I would have loved to have seen it. But this album stuck with me that whole summer. I was listening to it nonstop, and I was always like, yeah, this is sounds like James Hetfield singing for Testament, because they're such similar style vocal stylings at the time. But yeah, this is a really, really good record. I totally love this record.
And I always find it a shame that they just don't play so many of those amazing songs.
I know.
I know they're always going to play the title track. Practice what you preach, but many of those songs you mentioned, that's why I think that tour was great, because they played so many of those songs. But nowadays you don't get any of those amazing deep tracks. Never.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why.
It's a shame, because Envy Life is a really good song. I love Envy Life. That song is just so great.
It's a wicked song.
You remember that the lyrics are really good. I love the chorus in that. Even Blessed Contempt, I just love how Chuck sings that song.
That's one of my favorite songs on that album and of Testament of all time.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, you can't get anything better than that. I don't know why they don't sing those songs. It's really weird.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Well, they just did the detailed run of the first two albums, so maybe we will get a Practice What You Preach dedicated tour at some point. That'd be pretty cool.
Oh, I would definitely want to go see that for sure.
Yeah,
that would be wicked.
Wow.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
And I've even seen Testament once. I saw them open for Slayer. I think it was Slayer and Megadeth. I saw Testament, Slayer, and Megadeth. Yeah.
I've seen Testament about 5-6 times, but for whatever reasons, this one tour I did not see. I missed it. So unfortunately. And I think it did come to Toronto, but I don't, and I can't even remember. I was thinking about this, like, why the fuck did I not see it? I mean, I see Master of Puppets. I was there, but I don't understand why I missed this one, but oh well.
Well, they did Montreal, so they had to have come to Toronto, I'm sure.
They did do Toronto, but I just, for whatever reasons, I just didn't get to that show.
Yeah. Unfortunately. Well, I mean, look at the other day, we were doing Whiplash. We didn't know that Whiplash had come to Toronto just last year.
2023, I know. I was like, I didn't know. I had no idea there. I mean, I would have went to that show for sure, but I had no idea. It's so weird. Oh, well.
Anything else on yours, or you're all good?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's a really good album, and like their third album to me is probably their most successful and probably their most, I guess, accessible album for them, more or less, I would think.
Yeah, don't think you'll get any argument from Jim and I.
No, that's awesome.
And then just for folks who maybe are missing that on vinyl or whatever, the band did just reissue that. So and the vinyl is really cool coloring. It matches the album cover. So that was like what, like last month or something? Fairly recently they reissued.
Yeah, it was like a couple months back.
Yeah.
Cool. But
Okay,
that's
Jim.
Well, I sort of almost gave mine away. So, but anyways, I'm
some
go
people
with,
don't know. I just knew by the color.
Yeah, this is the I'm collecting all the Voivod on vinyl. So I got this on the pink splatter vinyl, but I got to get a turntable to get it so I can open it up and play it. So, but anyways, so I'm going with obviously Voivod's Nothing Face. I mean, here we are in Canada. Go to pick a Canadian. This would be their most known album, their most famous, and their sort of their breakthrough album. With the original members, Snake, Piggy, Blackie, and Away. This entered the Billboard charts at 114 and has been their highest charting album and their only charting album, I think, on Billboard ever, which is amazing. The single off of it, the main single, Astronomy to Mine, Pink Floyd cover, amazing cover. I mean, if you're going to cover something for Voivod, you got to cover a Pink Floyd tune, and they do it again off of The Outer Limits with the Nile song, so that's kind of neat. But there's some great hits on this, and MTV pushed the video on Headbangers Ball continuously. So I think that and Much Music, where we're at, really pushed the hell out of it. So we got to see it a lot, and it kind of brought Voivod into the forefront. A definite difference from their first album, War and Pain, even from Dimension Hatros. It's going a little bit more prog thrash in my mind, but still one of my favorite albums of all time. The Unknown Knows on it is just a fantastic track. Into My Hypercube, Pre-Ignition, X-Ray Mirror. There's so many good songs on this, and I mean the album art for Inside. I know this is a re-release, but it's got Away does like he does for most of the songs on all of the albums, does their own little their own drawings. So amazing album art. So I mean I absolutely love it, and it's just I remember getting it for Christmas, and I remember my mother going in to go get it, and she asked the guy at Sam the Record Man for Voivod. I've got it on cassette. I've got about 3 copies of it on CD. It's just such a good album, and it's what I think. I wonder how many fans fell in love with this album or thought, wow, this is really cool. Especially you got your thrash, you got your mainstream metal, and you've got even some prog fans that would pick up along the way. And I went back and checked out the great albums before it with Dimension Hatros, Killing Technology, Roar, and A War and Pain. I mean, I love War and Pain, but it's a little tricky to get into, especially if you're getting into it with this album. Going back in those early, really heavy thrash, punk infused, down-tuned albums. I absolutely love them. But this is just such a good album for that year. And there's so many good albums this year. I was looking at it last week. I picked a Metal Church one, and I wanted to pick one this week. And I was like, I don't want to do a same one. I want to do something different. And so, but yeah, definitely, I love this album. And people, especially young people today, you want to start with Voivod, there's nothing wrong with starting with this album.
No, you know what, Jim? It's almost like Pink Floyd. I got Pink Floyd vibes out of it. So if you're a Floyd fan, I think this is a good album to start with as well.
Oh, absolutely. And with prog death metal being so big nowadays, like we talk about, I think it made all our list, Blood Incantations album, even with Opeth, I would consider them more of a prog. Voivod, flourished, and I mean their last album was super awesome as well. I think it's going that way, and I think more bands are picking up on it. I mean, Blood Incantation album has, when I listen to it, I mean, it's got a Pink Floyd kind of sound to it, but it also, there's hints of everything in there, including some Voivod in there as well, mixed in. I think, anyways.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, I got no disagreement with either of your selections.
Yeah.
If I look back on my like top 20 or top 25 albums, both of those are on there. So,
Yeah.
and I will say for me, there's no doubt 1989 is my favorite year in heavy metal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I personally don't think anything comes close.
Yeah.
Just in terms of the sheer like quantity of high quality stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
But okay, so I gotta say I don't think I went with something as known, but I've gone with something that this is also in my top 20 albums of all times. So it is da, da, da.
Yeah. Good
So
album.
forced entry, uncertain future. So the rare thrash band coming from Seattle, Washington, right? Like we know there's some heavy metal bands, but this is the rare thrash band. So I would also probably say the most criminally underrated band of all time in thrash. Sadly, only 2 albums. This is Uncertain Future, and then the even slightly more technical As Above, So Below. In 1991, there was an EP in 95 called The Shore. So these guys are a three-piece, but the sound is massive.
Mm-hmm.
Got Tony Benjamin's vocal and bass, a great guitarist, Brad Hall on guitars, and Colin Madsen on drums. Like in terms of the band's sound, like it's hard to I mean, so I wouldn't necessarily call it technical thrash, but the songs never follow your standard thrash patterns, though. So song structures definitely slant to the technical side, even far more so on the second album. The riffing's pretty intricate, lots of surprise twists and turns in the song. But then you know, like Ken, I'm sure you like it. The band's known to tackle socially
Mm-hmm.
topics in their lyrics, but it's the vocals, right? Like whereas technical thrash would be clean, high vocals, Tony is just like he's in the complete lower end, right? Powerful, like aggressive vocals, so they stand out with some of the technicality and more complex structures. But like it's all thrash in the vocal line, so yeah, I just think it's a complete masterpiece. As I said, if we did a top 10 of the most underrated albums of all times, which actually wouldn't be a bad top 10 future. This would be my number one, no doubt. It's interesting. So coming from, they broke up in the 90s, being from like Seattle's probably didn't help. We always say grunge helped kill metal. Well, I mean, this is kind of in their backyard, right? So that I'm sure that didn't help. The guitarist on here did join Sanctuary and World Dane for a period of time when they came back for a reunion. So, and this doesn't sound like Sanctuary. This is far faster and more aggressive than Sanctuary. But as a guitarist, he's quite versatile. So if you want to check out certain songs, Anaconda, I think that was the single, but Bludgeon, Unrest, The Find, the Kaleidoscope of Pain, just fantastic. Like, and I'll be bugging you guys to do a full podcast.
Yeah.
Complete masterpiece.
Absolutely.
At some point in the future.
Yeah. We'll cover it.
Sadly, I have the second album only on CD. I've been hunting for an original vinyl pressing, but no luck.
Billy, there is another thrash band from Seattle. You know Panic?
Yes.
I think so.
Panic.
Yeah, they're thrash from Seattle as well.
Are they newer or older?
No, they're on the same time as Forced Entry.
Oh, the same. So 80s? Yeah.
Yeah, they have a 2 or 3 albums. You should check them out. They're pretty good. I own all their albums.
I know a Panic, Panic, but I also know there's at least 2 or 3 bands called Panic.
Yeah, unfortunately, the brand name is it's been used by other bands.
Yeah, but I'll take a look.
Yeah, take a look at them. They're pretty good.
They had an album called Epidemic, I think.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, Epidemic.
Yeah, I'd have to see the album cover, but
like Forced Entry, Epidemic is a good album, and then they did another album where it was the style wasn't the same.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
Oh, let me see that again, Chip.
Oops.
Oh, it's not coming through.
Got
No, I
kind of a
don't think I know that
skeleton.
one.
Yeah, it's hard to see.
No,
Yeah,
I
look
don't
them
know.
up. I think you might like them. They're pretty
Yeah.
good.
I think the Panic I'm thinking of is relatively newer, like in the
Yeah.
last 20 years, but
Yeah, you probably are. Yeah. Because that name is kind of been used by many bands now.
Yeah.
okay, cool. Well, Jim, you gave me homework this time.
Okay.
Cool.
Or Ken did.
That was Ken.
Yeah, Jim showed me the picture.
Yeah, check it out. See, let me know what you think, because I
Okay.
think it's pretty.
But I
pretty
do have another underrated thrash album here.
Yeah.
Just want to pull that out.
Of course.
Just kidding, guys.
Like, Jim, is that going to be your next pick or what?
I know, because Ken's going to do a pick, so I'm going to save that one a little later
Oh,
on.
shoot.
But it will come up.
Yeah.
It's gonna
Okay.
come
We'll
up.
get there in a few minutes. Okay. All right. So before we start to wrap this up, any last words, gentlemen?
No, it's a
Great
good
pick,
album.
Billy.
Yeah. Good
Yeah.
pick. Yeah, good choice, Billy.
All right, so that brings us to the end of episode 47. So, yeah, like so next week's episode, yeah, it would be a bit odd to do Metallica again. So, Ken's pick is going to be some album I never heard of. Got Master of Puppets. So that'll be next week's topic. So again, thanks everybody for joining us. You know, as we say over and over, we greatly appreciate it. Helps us grow the channel. So thank you very much. And we'll see you all next week for Master of Puppets.
You bet.
See you later.